X-Men First Class is a 2011 superhero film based on the X-Men characters appearing in Marvel Comics. The film is the fifth installment in the X-Men film series and a prequel to 2000's X-Men. It was directed by Matthew Vaughn and produced by Bryan Singer, from a screenplay by Ashley Edward Miller, Zach Stentz, Jane Goldman, and Matthew Vaughn. Starring James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Rose Byrne, January Jones, Oliver Platt, and Kevin Bacon. The film is set primarily in 1962 during the Cuban Missile Crisis and focuses on the relationship between Professor Charles Xavier and Eric Lehnsherr, aka Magneto, and the origin of their groups, the X-Men and the Brotherhood of Mutants, respectively, as they deal with the Hellfire Club led by Sebastian Shaw, who is bent on world domination. One of the things that's very clear with X-Men First Class is Matthew Vaughn embraces the source material, unlike Bryan Singer. And this is very clear with the design of the X-Men uniforms, which is just a direct callback to the early X-Men comics. The yellow and blue design is a hallmark of early X-Men comics, unlike the Bryan Singer films, which chose to go with black leather. With First Class, I felt like I was watching a classic 60s spy film that I used to watch when I was growing up. It's just amazing, not just story-wise that it felt like a spy film, but also the look is very reminiscent of a 60s spy film. I really think it's amazing that Matthew Vaughn was not only able to capture the feel, but the look of those classic 60s spy films. One of the things I loved about First Class is that it focused on a different set of mutants. The other films just focused on the same old set of mutants, and as they say, variety is the spice of life. This is why I loved First Class. With First Class, a strong argument can be made that McAvoy and Fassbender are the definitive Xavier and Magneto. It's amazing how this film manages to organically weave both Magneto and Xavier's stories together, and seeing their stories unfold is really amazing to see on screen. And it's just elevated even more by the strong performances of both McAvoy and Fassbender. But it's also a testament to such a strong script. I loved Kevin Bacon's portrayal as Sebastian Shaw. He reminded me of a classic Bond villain, just a little more over the top. It wasn't as subtle as the other X-Men villains, let's just say. I loved how they interweaved him into the story of Magneto. But you can tell that Kevin Bacon enjoyed portraying a Marvel villain. I found the action sequences in X-Men First Class very memorable, even though there wasn't many action sequences. The special effects in First Class I was very impressed with. Every mutant power had its own visual standout, and it never felt like they were copy and pasting the same look and the same feel with every mutant power. Everyone had their own distinct look to their own abilities. By using the Cuban Missile Crisis as the backdrop in this film, it gives something that the audience can relate to, but something that's very fearful, because in the back of our mind, we worry about not only the world, but these characters, even though in a way we shouldn't worry about these characters because we know some of these characters are going to survive from the events of X-Men 1, X-Men 2, and X-Men 3. So it's very interesting how this film plays upon the fears of a real-life event that has occurred in our lifetime. As I noted prior, there was great performances by Kevin Bacon, McAvoy, and Fassbender, but overall, the entire cast really had great chemistry together. You can tell they really loved working on this project. And when you have a great director, a great script, you can tell that when you have a great ensemble assembled and they really love the material, it's going to really shine, and it shows on the screen. As I said, this film's script is very strong. Not only is it a great superhero film, but it's an equally great drama. Seeing the relationship between Magneto and Xavier come together was really great, but also seeing their relationship fracture was very heartbreaking. There are some issues I have with X-Men First Class. Darwin's bizarre death which doesn't make any sense considering his mutant powers. January Jones' portrayal as Emma Frost I found was a little lackluster. I know she clearly tried, yet it really didn't do much for me, sadly, and I love Emma Frost, especially she's one of my favorite characters in the comics. There's a couple of continuity issues with Moira McTaggart and Emma Frost. If you look at prior X-Men films like X-Men Origins Wolverine in regards to Emma Frost and Moira McTaggart from X-Men The Last Stand. And I felt some of the characters in the film were also underutilized, like Riptide, for example, and some of the other characters in Xavier's group underutilized, for example. But overall, this film is fantastic. That's just a little bit of the nitpicks I had. But for the most part, this film is fantastic. It's one of the best superhero films I've ever seen. Hi everyone, hope you enjoyed this review. Hit the like and subscribe button and please comment down below.